Greetings and salutations, and welcome to episode number 186 of Ref the District. I am, of course, the Stoner. To my left, to your right, guess I got it right again, is the man, Trev. What's up, Trev?
Not much, man. Just ready for some real football to happen, but
we're getting closer.
I know.
We are getting so much closer to real football, and I know that's got everybody excited, especially Commanders fans. We're so happy that everybody has joined us here. If you want to hit up Trevi on the old X machine over there, you can see his handle right below him. It's at Trev HTTC. We all know what the HTTC stands for, right?
Yeah.
Or you can catch me at RTD Stoner. Nobody cares about that handle. Hit us up at Ref the District on Twitter. That's where you can find us. But again, this is number 186 of Ref the District. Appreciate everybody being here. Before we get started with everything, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe if you are not a subscriber yet. We appreciate that. If you are listening on your audio device, then make sure you leave us a rating and review. If you listen to us on Spotify, Apple, wherever that may be, we'd appreciate that as well. So let's kind of get into a little bit of what we're going to be talking about here today on Ref the District. In the cool down, that's a little bit later. Oh, by the way, Nathan will be here later. He's running around a little bit. He will be here probably around 8:15-ish. Because as you know, we do this every Wednesday live, 7:30 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, on Facebook, not on Twitter anymore, but we're going to try and fix that, or X, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, Nathan will be here in a little bit, so don't worry. For all you Nathan fans out there who were wondering where he was last week, he'll be here. Don't worry about that. But later in the cool down, we're going to look forward to what to expect in preseason game number 2 against the Miami Dolphins down in Miami. The team is there. They are practicing tomorrow against the Dolphins, day off Friday. Saturday night, they will play preseason game number 2. So we'll talk about that. During the game, the big topic all week has been what the heck is going on with Jahan Dotson and the wide receiver room. Because, Trev, something stinks, and we're going to have to get to the bottom of it. But here in the warm-up, we're going to talk all about what happened in this past week. We're going to talk about the Jets game, the preseason game number 1, and, of course, the joint practice, just the one practice. I think we all thought there was going to be 2 practices, but it was only one practice. So we're going to talk all about what happened, especially in the preseason game and the one drive that Jayden Daniels, of course, had. Before we get on all of that, let me do our promo for BetOnline. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. From the preseason NFL to college kicking off, BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. Think you know your stuff? Get in on our winner-take-all $300,000 NFL Survivor Pool for the upcoming season. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and come get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today and use promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, and get in on the action. BetOnline, the game starts here. And I think we're going to get in on the NFL Survivor Pool, because I don't know if you remember last year, Ref the District won a Survivor Pool, JP Finley's Survivor Pool. We won the whole blicky. It went down to week number 17, and there were four players left, and we were the only one that got a team that won that week, and we won the entire thing. So if you think you know Survivor Pools, just ask us. We'll help you out.
Yeah. We got you.
All right. Appreciate everybody who's in here already. PE, Gus Bus, Code Talker, Locked On, Allison's here, JG, Grimjow. Who else? P-Dub's in the house. Uptown Dre, Dougford's here. Roger's here. Let's see who else. Brian, it's all
Yams here.
Yams here. Did I say Gus already? It's been a while, Gus. Where you been? Jimmy Lee Patterson's here and Nicole's here. We appreciate everybody who's here. Make sure you all hit that like button. I know you're watching. So there's 37 people here. We should have minimum 37 likes right now. It's going to get packed in here. We're going to pay attention to all of your tweets, texts, whatever you want to call them in the comment section. So keep them coming. Keep them coming. full time. All right, Trev, I'm already tired of talking. Let's get on to last week against the Dolphins and what has happened. And oh, by the way, we are
the Jets
up to date. The Jets, thank you. We are going to get you up to date with everything that has gone on this past week as well, of course, with injuries, signings, releases, and all that stuff. So we will get to that and our opinions on that. Trev, against the Jets, let's first talk about the practice. Practice. Because I have to tell you, before I ask your opinion on this, on the tracker, Jayden Daniels training camp tracker, that practice against the Jets, he got his first no good practice. Here on my list. What did you sort of think of what you were hearing that was coming out of that Jets joint practice?
Kind of what, is to be expected if you know the game of football. Nobody's perfect. First true test against a different NFL defense, whether it's practice, preseason, or regular seasons.
Yeah.
The weather was awful, which is not an excuse, but it's a factor. And he did what probably any other rookie could possibly do. I mean, he did bad. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say bad. He just didn't have an overall good day, but he made some good throws still in the rain. Like I said, he wasn't horrible, but he had some hiccups, I want to say.
Yeah,
that should probably be expected from a rookie quarterback who has never faced the NFL defense. So he wasn't horrible. I'm not saying, oh, why did we pick him at number 2? He came and played in the rain. Like, I'm not doing that. He's capable of being an NFL quarterback, franchise quarterback. So it's just to be expected. Some hiccups, nothing to freak out about. Just a learning experience. So,
yeah, I think as Lockdown is saying here, 3/5 of his line was backups. And that was the same in the preseason game as well. Maybe even more than that. But yeah, he was dealing with a lot of offensive line injuries and guys playing out of position. Chris Paul was playing right tackle. Mason Brooks was playing left tackle. Things like that.
Stromberg was the center, I think, right?
Right. And the guys that they had just signed 2 days earlier were playing. Now, not necessarily when Jayden Daniels was playing and in that joint practice, but the point is the offensive line was a jumbled mess when they went up to New York to take them on. Are you surprised there wasn't any fights?
No.
Just
because we saw what happened, and the NFL said, okay, well, here's a hefty fine if you want to fight. I heard it was like a little scuffle, like a 2-3 second scuffle with Forbes and somebody else, but other than that, it wasn't anything to really talk about. So no, I'm not surprised.
I was a little bummed, first of all, that first the Jets said, okay, we're doing a live stream of this joint practice, and then it was only 30 minutes long, and is when the guys were doing stretches and warm-ups, and then they cut off the live stream, and we didn't get to watch anything. But I think the biggest takeaway out of that joint practice for me was that it was the first time that Jayden Daniels got to take on an opposing defense, an NFL defense that wasn't the same guys over and over. So I think that was important. And I don't necessarily think he struggled.
No.
But he just wasn't sharp.
Right.
And then we've come a long way, Trev, when the criticism of your quarterback is that he wasn't sharp.
Yeah. We'll take
it. I mean, we'll take that, right? Because mostly the criticisms are he's throwing picks, he's taking a lot of sacks, he's not doing this, he's not doing that. And the criticism that we had is he just wasn't sharp.
That's okay.
And then Trev, and then we get to the preseason game.
Okay.
In which, by the way, where I'm at, they weren't showing it.
Oh.
So I didn't even get to see the game live.
Yeah.
And I had a busy day anyway, so it would have been tough to watch it. I would have had to record it, but still, I didn't even get to watch it live until later on. But Trev, I'm going to go through that first drive a little bit, and then I want you to comment, and I want everybody here to also comment of what they thought about Jayden's one and only drive. His first pass as an NFL quarterback, it's not official pass, right? Because it's preseason. But his first pass was over the head of Austin Eckler on a screen pass. What did you do when you saw that, Trev, live?
When I saw it live, I was like, oh god, please, please, NFL gods, don't let this be a bust. But then
Yeah.
I, sat back and was like, nerves.
Yeah.
It was just nerves. That's all it was.
I think
I'm
so.
not, like I said, I'm not like, oh, why did we take him? I'm not anywhere close to being like that, probably ever. But yeah, I was just like, oh, not okay. Someone's a little bit nervous out there. It's okay.
Right. A little bit of nerves, maybe just a little too fired up, maybe.
Yeah.
That his first pass it just sailed over. I mean, Eckler's a small dude, but he ain't
Right,
that
but that
small.
was he still couldn't even jump and catch that one. So
Yeah. But he settled down, and kind of going back to the first play, when I did go back and watch some of it, and that first play, Trev, and they lined up in that formation in the pistol with Brian Robin next to him, I had flashbacks from 2023, and I didn't know what was going on, right?
that's good though.
And I was thinking, oh no, what are we doing here? But that's a staple of pretty much every offense nowadays, especially with young quarterbacks coming out of college, because that's what they did in college. They were in a pistol and they had the running back, and so that's where they're most comfortable.
Yep.
Pass number 2, Trev.
Okay.
Was the 42-yarder that he threw to Dyami Brown on a third down that he checked into, that he did not necessarily have permission to check into. I love the analogy that Dan Quinn gave, right?
Yeah,
when somebody asked about it. And they said, it's like Tom Cruise in Top Gun. Maybe I'm going to ask for permission to buzz the tower, but even if you say no, I'm doing it anyway. And then I'll ask for forgiveness later, which is what Tom Cruise did in all the Top Guns. And maybe that's what Jayden Daniels was doing. Like, he didn't necessarily ask for permission to check out of plays, but he did it anyway. And look how successful it was. What happened in the Stores household when he connected on that 42-yard pass to Dyami?
I said, okay, so he does have a deep ball. I mean, of course, we all knew that, seeing all the training camp videos and clips, but in live game action, you want to see if he could execute it well. And he did. He had a nice pocket, adjusted, made the throw, trusted himself, trusted his wide receiver. Came out later that him and Cliff Kingsbury were texting before the game, go over plays to run, and supposedly Daniels asked Cliff if he could throw a deep pass in the first play, and he said, no, not happening. Well, he said, okay, well, I'm going to get a deep pass off no matter what.
Yeah, right.
And made the check, which is, so what? He didn't have permission. He made a check. He made a call, which was the right call, apparently. And all of his teammates trusted him, and he trusted himself. And look what happened. So I was cool with it.
Yeah, and I think what I liked about it, and the checking into that play, from what we understand from last year, Trev, is that Sam Howell did not have the authority to change plays. He did not have, because the coaching staff was not confident that he could execute that properly, read the defense, and make those checks. Obviously, Jayden Daniels has that ability to do so, to make those checks. What I loved about that play, and there's a lot to love about it, whether he connected or not on that play, he checked to it. He saw he had single coverage on the right side. The safety was over on the left side where they had two receivers. So he checked to that play. Dyami Brown didn't get a lot of separation. But what he did is he took his drop. He looked the safety off.
Yes, he
in
did.
His second career pass. Yeah. He knew enough to look off the safety, to freeze him for just enough, and then go to his right and drop an absolute dime.
Yes, he did.
To Dyami Brown. That Dyami Brown catches it, Trev, or nobody catches that pass.
Exactly. Yep, I agree. And I'm very, very happy that Dyami Brown caught that pass, because that's making his stock go up.
Right. And that helps a lot of things. That helps a lot of things that he did catch that. It helps a whole lot of anxiety from fans that he did catch that. But the pass was perfect. Now, nobody, and I can tell you right now, nobody here is saying that because of that pass, he's going to be a star in this league. Nobody's saying that. What
No.
we are saying is that he came out and he played the part and he executed and he threw a great pass on that.
Yeah.
And that's what you needed to see. We all said this. We want to see him execute the offense. We want to see him throw a deep ball. We want to see him use his legs, which he did later on for his 3-yard touchdown run.
And now that smile towards the sideline after that completion makes a whole lot more sense now, because not only, of course, he made a great play in his first few snaps of NFL, but he made the call himself, and he knew he didn't have permission. And he looked over and like, hey, I told you, like, I got this. That's the kind of smile. So that's cool to see that he's having fun. And he's being aggressive. You know?
Aggressive, another good word.
I like that. Yeah, I like that he took a shot and tried it, and might get ridiculed for it afterwards, like Tom Cruise or whatever, but he's aggressive. I don't care if it's preseason. It just shows you the kind of player that he is, no matter if it's preseason, regular season, or practice. He's going to do what we brought him here to do.
Yeah. And the praise that he got from coaches afterwards is telling. The praise he's getting from everywhere around the NFL, both internally with beat reporters and now externally. You're hearing it from a lot of different national writers that they're starting to pay attention to what's going on in Washington. And as I've said many times on this show, Trev, I've said to you many times, I believe I am an excellent reader of between the lines.
You are.
I'm not seeing anything that people are trying to say things that without directly criticizing. There's nothing there. And it's been consistent since day one.
What I'm seeing is, quite frankly, some of these staff members and coaches and other people that are answering the questions are probably getting tired of answering the question about Jayden Daniels.
Yeah.
And they're running out of things to say. I watched a clip with Diana Rossini, and it was a couple times he was like, he's running out of things to say positive for Jayden Daniels. So that's what I'm noticing. They're running out of things to say, and they're kind of getting a little annoyed by how's Jayden Daniels when everybody knows. But so that's good to see, rather than an extensive. We'll get to the game. That kind of answer when asked about specific players. They're not vague. They're crystal clear. There's no smoke, and it's all positive.
Right. And as we'll get to later, when it comes to guys like Jahan and Forbes and Jamin Davis, read between those lines. Those are things that you can decipher that are not the same sort of statements that these folks are making.
Right.
And so we'll get to that later. All right. Some other things that I liked about that game that I wrote down, Trev, is that they did go no huddle at certain times during that game. And we all understand the importance of no huddle. Now, I don't remember, so correct me if I'm wrong. Did Jayden Daniels do any no huddle?
Yeah, I do believe it was very, very early, like after the first or second play of the game. Maybe, I don't know, it was very early. They ran the play, got up, and then he was already like telling people where to go and lining them up without even having to huddle and talk about it. So I did notice that, and I like that. Keeps the defense on their toes.
Yeah, that's I think every fan wants that from their offense.
Yeah, because as a defensive player, no, but you're already expecting a little lull, especially if you did make the tackle. You got to wait for them to get up, either celebrate, give the ball back, substitute, huddle. There's some downtime, but when you huddle, that gives the defense that they're getting up. They're like, oh, we got to get up and get position. Like, what are they running? Like, that's what you want to see. So it's great to see.
Yeah. It's nice to see that this early that they're even trying it in a preseason game number one. And so the fact that they're doing that is impressive, I think.
And the fact they backed it up, because all offseason you heard from B-Rob, you heard from Tyler Bidiosh that we're going to do a little bit of no huddle. And, of course, you have people like, they're just saying that. Well, actually, no, they're not just saying that, because they clearly worked on it. They read it in the preseason game. So
Yeah.
That's good to see, too.
And then also I kind of skipped over it, but the pass to McLaurin, the little bubble screen type.
Yeah.
I've never seen, at least here in Washington, I've never seen a bubble screen throw like that before. It was a dart. It allowed Terry McLaurin to get it and be able to turn upfield. Now he only got 2 or 3 yards, whatever it was, because, and we'll talk about this later, because Jahan Dotson doesn't feel like blocking. But the point is that he got it to his receiver quickly to allow the receiver to make a play.
Yep, we love it. We've seen previous screens.
You've seen those ones before where they're just kind of lofted over there, and it takes a little bit of time. This one led Terry upfield and got it to him quickly.
Exactly. Loved it.
All right. One more positive.
Okay.
Well, a couple more positives from that game. Jayden Daniels stood out. Now we have just killed Jayden Daniels. And he stood out in a positive way in terms of his physicality out there. He's still got a long ways to go.
Yeah.
But he stood out in terms, he just popped. And we haven't said that for 2 years.
No.
And so I think that's a good thing that he popped.
Did he pop on the TD run by Daniels? Is that what you're talking about?
I don't know specifically. I can't remember because now the plays are all starting to get jumbled on me. But at least he showed some physicality out there to where he was, like I said, he was popping.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for him because he's been pretty much forgotten since he was drafted. I mean, he missed the entire year. He was on the IR. And then the young DBs, Trev.
Yeah.
3 of them. And sorry, but I didn't write them down. But it's because I can't pronounce their names anyway. Okay. So it's the undrafted free agent. Can you remind me of his name?
Is it the Cheezo?
Yeah,
like that
exactly.
One?
Yes.
From Texas A&M or something like that?
Yep, exactly. So like I said, there's 3 of them that stood out for me anyway, or it stood out for a lot of people. But I mean, Tyler Owens, we can say his name. Tyler Owens is making this team.
Special teams.
Yeah. At worst, he's going to be a special teams guy. But he's a rookie from Texas Tech, undrafted rookie from Texas Tech. He's making the team, right?
I agree. Yeah, for sure.
And then, gosh, I gotta try and say their names, but I'm gonna absolutely struggle to say their names. Let me get to them here real quick. Noah Igbiang.
Yeah, number 19.
Yep.
Didn't we sign him from Dallas?
Yes, I believe he came over from Dallas.
So he's familiar with Joe Witt and Dan Quinn. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And then the guy that you were trying to say his name.
Which some people who really know football, know college football, were already talking about him.
Yeah.
In the offseason, that was a good pickup. He's going to be good for us. So.
Yep.
Let's see what happens.
So I thought some of those guys stood out a little bit, especially after some of the guys who got released, like Christian Holmes and such.
I got another standout, Ben Sinnott.
All right. Oh, Ben Sinnott.
That boy's a dog. That was a great pickup. And he's pretty much picked up where he left off at Kansas State, running over people, running through people, not going down after first contact.
Yep.
Great pickup. He's going to be a great gadget guy for us. I say gadget because tight end, wide receiver, halfback, fullback, he could do it all.
Yep. In the practice that I went to, I guess it's been a couple of weeks now since I went to that practice, I saw him lining up all over the place. I saw him in the backfield. I saw him, like you said, like in a split end sort of position. The guy. Gosh, why is my brain is not functioning with names? But the guy I liked last year, Alex Arnold.
Oh, no. Yeah, Alex.
Right. Last year he'd come in and play fullback a little bit, but he'd be off to the side and then come flying. I saw him doing that, and then I saw him at tight end and what he did in the game, that one catch. Now, look, the catch was easy, right? But what he did after the catch and plowing through guys, and sure, some of those guys are not going to be on rosters and all that, but
Right.
Still, you have to
He
pop.
made angry runs. He made angry runs on Good Morning Football
That's right.
in preseason. So I'm happy.
Yep. I think maybe the concerns of that game, we have to go back to a concern we've had for 2 years now, and that is of course Emmanuel Forbes.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with Emmanuel Forbes, but it's not good.
No, it's not.
From what I understand, I didn't watch the full tape on him, but I did watch a lot of him in this game, and he did get burned for a touchdown. But he played okay.
He played okay.
But in that practice, he was just getting slaughtered by Garrett Wilson.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, because I know he played in the SEC, which is kind of hard to believe now with the way he's performing in the pros.
Right.
I guess those quarterbacks were just really bad in SEC. I didn't really pay outside of Jayden Daniels. I didn't pay attention really to get 6 interceptions to the house. Like, yeah. I just
in 1 year.
I don't know, man. Yeah, in 1 year, and it's not translating. I don't care if you did gain 15 pounds. If you don't have the footwork or the technique, you could be the best shape of your life, but then you could be one of the worst players in the league if you don't have those 2 things at your position.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Go ahead, Trey.
You heard Dan Quinn said on that PBU he got, that was cool, but he'd like to see him come down with interception.
Yeah.
And if you watch Forbes, yep. And if you watch Forbes, you don't ever really see him trying to go after the pick. It's always trying to knock it away, get it away. I've never seen him actually like try and go for the pick.
Yeah.
Like it's just he's getting burned by Garrett Wilson. He's getting burned by 4th stringers in preseason. Like,
yeah.
I just don't get it. I don't get it.
It bothered me when a lot of people were saying it's Garrett Wilson. He's an absolute stud wide receiver, which he is.
Every NFL team has a stud wide receiver. I don't care if they're 1, 2, or 3. It's the NFL. Starting wide receivers are studs, bro. That's
just
not an
look
excuse.
In your own division. I mean, if he wasn't playing CeeDee Lamb and Malik Neighbors and AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, 6 times a year, but he is. And the game number 1, that you got to deal with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin.
And we drafted him for people like that, so we could have a chance to go up against the guys like that.
Yes.
So it's very, very disappointing. I was not happy with the pick when we first made it. I was really hoping Christian Gonzalez, which you got AJ Brown raving about him after their joint practice. You don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
But I kind of, talked myself into, okay, well, maybe Forbes can be okay. Like, whatever. But, man.
It's crazy when you look at, and we put this out last week or a couple weeks ago or something, that in the 4 drafts of the previous regime, the only guy who's going to get a second contract is going to be Sam Cosmi.
Yeah.
In 4 drafts, 33 football players were selected, and the only one that's going to get a second contract is Sam Cosmi. And he's a guard.
Yeah.
And he's a good guard. But
no disrespect, but like he's a guard.
Right. I mean, guys who are possible to get those second contracts are guys like Jahan Dotson and St. Just and Brian Robinson. And, that's about it. That are even a possibility of getting a second contract.
It's just not good.
And it's crazy to think that Emmanuel Forbes, who was the 16th overall pick in the draft, and we were screaming on draft night that year, not to kind of, make us look like we're some sort of great draft evaluators, but we were screaming on draft night that when it got past pick number 13, that Washington should trade up for Christian Gonzalez at 13. And then nobody picked him at 13, 14, 15. And we were screaming, yes, we're getting Christian Gonzalez. And then they picked
Emmanuel
Emmanuel
Forbes.
Forbes, and we're all like, huh? Christian Gonzalez goes the very next pick, and now all of a sudden he's a stud
He's
corner.
a stud,
And it's
yes.
just crazy how that works. And
It is.
we've touted the, some bad players and thought that they were going to be great, but that was one that, I mean, Yahoos like us, we knew that Christian Gonzalez was the guy.
Yeah. So I'm not very high on Forbes right now. I don't see him. He might not even make it the whole season here. He might be released. You never know.
That's probably a little early on that, being that it's only the second year, but I mean, benched is probably not out of the question.
Well, that's already happened too, so that won't be anything different.
He's cornerback 4 right now.
I mean,
he's behind St. Juice, Sanistrill, Davis, and that's it. And then it's
fine.
him.
I mean, let's see how he does against wide receiver 3 or 4 in a game.
Yeah.
And if he gets burnt by then that's when you know he belongs on the bench.
It's time to pull.
He can't handle wide receiver 1s and 2s.
All right, look, one of those other guys that we want to talk about in terms of a second contract that is eligible from the previous regime is, of course, Jahan Dotson. So we're going to talk all about what's going on with Jahan Dotson, what's going on with this wide receiver room. I mean, everything is looking so great for this team in terms of making it to another level. And then, but then we have to worry about Jahan Dotson and the wide receiver room. So we're going to talk all about that in the game coming up here. So I want to make sure everybody is sticking around for that. We're just going to take a quick timeout. Stay with us. We'll talk all about Jahan Dotson, the wide receiver group here in the game. All right, welcome back to episode number 186. This is the game portion of Ref the District here. I am the stoner. That is Trev. Nathan will be joining us shortly here, so we want to get his input also on what's going on with Jahan Dotson and the wide receiver group because of some things that have happened in the last couple of weeks. Yep. Mainly, Trev, we're going to go through before we talk too much about Jahan. Again, make sure you hit that like button and hit the subscribe if you are not yet a subscriber. You should be, but make sure you hit the like button. We're going to talk about some roster moves that's happened in the last couple of weeks because, first of all, they signed Byron Pringle about 2 weeks ago. Byron Pringle, right? The wide receiver, right?
You did say that.
But he's
that's we're used to Joey Slides, Jack. For the past couple of years, that's what we're used to. So we see somebody with average legs, they look like chicken legs.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So Riley Patterson is the kicker, the only kicker in camp right now. I believe, Trev, I don't know if you believe, but the game number 1 kicker is not on this roster at this time.
There's no way.
Somebody's getting cut loose somewhere.
Yeah.
That they're going to sign.
For sure.
Let's see. Wiley was back at practice yesterday after he missed some time against, with the Jets practice and earlier. So he was back at practice. Johnny Newton's a little banged up, right?
Okay.
Not related to the injury that he had earlier in the season that had him in a walking boot or the injury that he had while in college. But I don't think there's any issue with that. Jordan McGee is a little banged up.
Yeah, we don't know.
That's a little bit of a concern.
It is a concern. I was looking forward to see him wreak some havoc this year, but we'll see how bad that knee injury is. I don't think they know yet, or they haven't announced it yet. But they did say but. So. Yep.
Let's see. Mason Brooks was released today. Too bad Nathan's not here to talk about that. He loved Mason Brooks last year in training camp. He was his district diamond, his guy from training camp. He just stood out and loved him so much. And he's gone. Sam Hartman is did he go to the injured list, or he's probably going to the injured list?
I think he probably will. He's not there yet, but
yeah. He injured his shoulder during preseason game 1. Not that big of a deal. I mean, he's QB4 at best, or QB3 at best. He's probably QB4. So they did sign Trace McSorley, who is about a 6 or 7 year NFL veteran. Has got some starts under him. Played under Kingsbury at Arizona. Played at Penn State with Jahan Dotson, and is a local kid from Ashburn, Virginia. So they did sign him. Mainly as a camp body, Trev. I think he's just going to get a lot of playing time in preseason game 2. And we'll talk about that later in terms of what we expect from the starters, especially Jayden Daniels against Miami. Yam says Sam is on IR. Okay, got it. Or IL, I think they call it now, but same thing.
Whatever, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I believe that's pretty much everything. JOK from the Browns got an extension. JOK was another guy that we thought Washington was going to take with the 19th pick in the 2021 draft at linebacker, and instead Ron took Jamin Davis. And also passed on him again with the second rounder when he took Cosme, which was okay that he did that. But JOK is a stud linebacker, gets an extension with Cleveland, and in the meantime, Jamin Davis is struggling to make the roster. Another great move.
Bingo.
What's going on with Jahan Dotson, Trev?
I don't know. I mean, because rookie year, he led like almost all rookies with 7 touchdowns, right?
And 2 years ago, absolutely did. Yep.
He did some things with the ball out in space that you love to see. Not gonna lie, when we drafted him, didn't know who he was.
Yeah, I remember because we were at the stadium doing a live draft, and you were on via like you're doing now, and it was like Jahan Dotson, and you were like, what? Who?
Like what? That's like a day 2 or day 3 receiver. That's
what I
thought. Then he came in and wowed me, and I was like, okay. And I was also following along Josh Taylor football. He's a huge Penn State guy, so I was listening to what he was saying. And he still backs him up to this day, which is nothing wrong with that. But you've seen one highlight, I think it was today, Dot to Dotson from the Team X account. It was a pass that he caught. Then you saw that one where he had to slow up and catch it and fall down. But you're not really – when the coaches are asked about Jahan Dotson specifically, Dan Quinn has given a paragraph answer that is so vague, and this is the one you can read between the lines about, as Stoner's so good at. It's just not a clear decision that he's going to be a super contributor for this team. They're bringing in receivers who were here last year, and now they're getting this year. They're bringing in somebody who hasn't played football in 6 years. A lot of people are saying Dotson's a lock. I mean, we've on this show said Dotson's a lock, and he probably still is, but he's having a tough go right now. If you follow some Zach Selby stuff, he gives his little notes about practices, and I've read where he's dropped one. He fell down, I think, in the preseason game.
He did.
He bobbled a throw in a preseason game. I don't know. But then you got Cliff saying when he asks him, challenges him, he competes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what every player should do. That's not really endorsing Jahan Dotson. That's just telling you. That's just a vague answer of saying we don't know.
Yeah,
the jury's still out on Jahan Dotson, so I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of clues when you're trying to figure out what's going on with Jahan Dotson in the wide receiver room. There's a lot of clues in here. First of all, you're bringing in a couple of veteran receivers like Byron Pringle and Martavis Bryant.
Yeah.
Why? You have veterans and you have some young guys that you really like. Why are you bringing in these guys? That's a question. Why is Jahan Dotson playing the most snaps at wide receiver?
Thank you. He played almost the entire game in a preseason game 1. Exactly.
Why? Right?
Why? Mm-hmm.
So there's that. There are those statements that the coaches are making. Like you said, Dan Quinn has made some underlying statements. Cliff Kingsbury has. Brian Mitchell, and I think a lot of people have already been talking about this.
I didn't hear what you
in the
said. I
comment
missed
section.
that one.
He didn't say specifically Jahan Dotson.
Okay.
But he said some things about a wide receiver in the room in recent practices where he was saying basically body language is a big deal.
Oh.
He didn't say Jahan specifically, but it's not Terry.
No.
I told you last week, Trev, when I was at practice, how much I loved Zacchaeus.
Yes.
In terms of a type of glue guy he is a guy who coaches love because he is all about the team. And I saw it. I saw him going around and dapping everybody up and getting them fired up and ready for practice and running the routes and continuing the runs after he makes catches, even after he's been whistled down. He'll, just the little things that coaches absolutely. It's not him, right? I'm sure it's not your new guys, your rookie. McCaffrey's not going to be a guy with bad body language. Yeah, I mean, rookie, better than that as a rookie, right?
And a McCaffrey. He ain't gonna do that.
And then you have professionals behind that. Guys like Jamison Crowder has never been known as that type of guy. And Byron Pringle, who came in, and then the young guys who are fighting for spots, the Bryson Tremaines, Az Allens, and Rosemary St. Jack, and Jack Saint, whatever, and all those guys. Yeah. So it just comes down to math and the process of elimination. And the guy that B. Mitch is calling out is Jahan Dotson.
Gotta be.
So he's getting looked at by people as having bad body language. He's not blocking well during the course of the game. He is getting more snaps than anybody in the wide receiver room.
Yep.
But I've seen it with my eyes, Trev. I've seen his talent with my eyes. His rookie year was so promising. And the contested catches that he made and all those touchdowns and the wide open sort of that he got in a lot of these plays, that he got himself so wide open. So I can't figure out what's going on with him.
Is he not getting open anymore? Can he not beat press coverage off the line? Can he – I mean, we know dating back to last season, he doesn't really catch the ball that well ever since his standout rookie year. He's falling down in a preseason game, bobbling catches, playing with third-string quarterbacks. I mean, I just don't know. His best year was with Carson Wentz, and that's so weird to say.
Yeah, right. Not a lot of wide receivers can say that.
No. And yes, we've had some different quarterbacks since then, but your job stays the same. It might make it a little harder for you to catch the ball. It might be in a different spot, but your job does not change. It stays the same. And he's digressing. I mean, it's like you said, all you need to know, Jahan Dotson, first or second in rookie touchdowns 2 years ago, is now playing all the way to the fourth quarter of a preseason game with Sam Hartman.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm not all the way out on him yet, but
us
signing these wide receivers, his playing time, like you said, they're clues. The coaches aren't giving a definitive answer by saying he's not good enough.
Right.
It's just.
Hey, Nathan in the his ow.
What up,
8:14. I promised everybody you'd be in by 8:15, and here you are at 8:14.
Bam.
With a haircut.
I had a boss who used to tell me all the time to undersell and overdeliver. This time I felt like just hitting it right on the nose.
Right on the nose.
What's up, dude? Good to see you.
What's up, Nathan? Good to see you, brother.
Good to be here. I'm sorry that I am a little bit late. Some idiot, me, decided to schedule a kid's medical appointment 2 hours away in the afternoon. It's not a good idea. Not a good idea.
That's okay.
But yeah, I'm clean now. My first day of school tomorrow for school, so I had I got groomed up for the kid. But all that aside, we're talking Jahan Dotson right now, right? So
yeah, we're talking Jahan, and we're trying to figure out. I mean, we've laid out all of the things that's been going on in terms of playing the most snaps in preseason game 1, getting called out, not specifically, but we did the math and we did process of elimination of getting called out by Brian Mitchell. His blocking has been a concern. His body language has been a concern. All of these things, and some of the reading between the lines of what the coaches are saying, both Kingsbury and Quinn, and trying to figure out why this seems to be happening to such a talented wide receiver. And the drops, by the way, we didn't even talk about the drops yet. The drops are just,
So the funny thing is, he actually had more drops his rookie year than he had last year.
Oh, really?
Which is crazy.
He did. Really, right? That's crazy, because I think that we're remembering last year drops. And in fact, if you look at his second season, his sophomore season, I've called it a slump. Everyone says that it's he had a bad year, and he did in totality, right? Like, I'm not saying he had a great year, but if you look at his averages, they're right on par with what he did his rookie year.
That's so weird.
Except he did have extra games per catch.
Yeah.
What's that?
His yards per catch were way down. I believe
yards per attempt maybe be down, but his yards per catch are actually, it was lower, but it wasn't drastically lower.
I thought it was,
which is easily overlooked when you're 4-13.
Yes. Yeah.
So
easily.
maybe that's why we didn't notice it, because we were atrocious everywhere. But
yeah, his advanced stats, the biggest difference. So yards, let's see here. So he had finished the year with 518 yards off of 83 targets, which meant that it was way worse because he had 61 targets the year before and just 5 more yards. But his yards per reception dipped from 11 to 8.2. So it's a decent amount, but not like crazy. This guy's like completely fallen off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
Right.
The bigger difference is his average depth of target went from 13.5 to 9.3. That's a 4-yard difference there. But looking the full thing is he had a down year because he was running a lot of cardio, to take Terry McLaurin's kind of phrase there. Yeah. But he was really about the same, minus touchdowns. That was the big thing, right? Like, he was scoring touchdowns at a big clip his rookie year. He wasn't doing that in his sophomore year.
Yeah.
I agree with you. The talent's there. This is a very talented player, and I am not down on him at all. I think that the B Mitch and other people getting on him, there's a fair point to get on him. Okay. I mean, he's going in his 3rd year. He's not been wide receiver 2 in the way that we thought. I mean, Stoner and I thought he was going to be such a wide receiver 2 that we were in an auction draft, and he and I were the only 2 bidding, and we got him up to, I think, like $26. Okay. On a $200 budget. Yeah. Jahan Dotson was going to take an 1/8 of it. And he didn't live up to that. No. And I think that our expectations are set high, and they should be for where he was drafted. But I don't think he's nearly as bad as what people say. I think there are some complaints about his game. He is a smaller wide receiver. He has a hard time getting off the line.
That's right. That's a big thing.
That is a big thing.
From his rookie year, it seemed like they were playing off on him. And then his second year, they seemed to figure out that if they got up on him, that he would have a more difficult time. But then you also have the signing of Pringle and the signing of Bryant. In nobody's hurt in that wide receiver room. Nope. So it's not a case. But
they do have a lot of Jags in that wide receiver room. Okay. Right now, the hype is surrounding De'Ami Brown going into year 4, who he's done this 3 seasons in a row where he's supposed to be the guy who steps up. But when the games are actually played, he's nowhere to be found. So you would need to get better.
Okay. But you brought in 3 wide receivers for a tryout the other day when they brought in Bryant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They brought in 3 guys, and then they signed Bryant.
Yeah.
You don't sign a guy like that, I think, a guy like Bryant or a guy like Pringle, unless they have a realistic shot of making your roster.
Sure.
You sign
a
those
vet
other
this
two guys
late
that
who
are on that
has
list.
has experience. Sure.
Right. So
Yeah.
if that happens, I'm not saying that Jahan is the odd man out. I don't
Right.
believe that even for a second. But it's just curious to me when you put all of these things together and all of the reading between the lines, which you know I love to do,
You love to do it.
and all of the actions, not the reading between the lines, but the actions, and you put it all together and you're saying Jahan's in trouble. Maybe not for a roster spot, but he's in trouble for playing time.
I personally loved the team's response to all this. Did you see that?
Oh, to show the
competition.
They showed a Jahan Dotson.
Oh yeah,
tough catch.
Clip. Yeah,
today, and that was
Because
the
they're
team's quiet response to all the shenanigans happening right now with B. Mitch talking about the wide receivers broadly, not naming anybody. Yeah, you kind of hone in on Jahan Dotson, who didn't seem to get a lot of playing time in that first preseason game. We haven't heard a lot. And when the coaches talk about him, this is where Stoner, you're reading between the lines, right? Comes into play here. When the coaches talk about him, they don't talk about him in the same light they do Terry.
That's right.
Thank you. They don't talk about him at all. They just
or Zacchaeus even.
Yeah.
Or Diami.
I'm going to take a small moment, gentlemen, to give myself a little pat on the back on the Zacchaeus thing. Everybody and their brother was trying to crown anybody being wide receiver 3 after Jahan Dotson other than Zacchaeus, except for me. I kept telling people, you're sleeping on the guy. He's a good wide receiver. Everyone wanted Luke. Everyone kept pumping up Diami Brown again. And I was just like, Zacchaeus is wide receiver 3. He might be wide receiver 2.
Yeah,
I mean,
he might be.
He has a legit shot to do that. And I think that's what Dan Quinn means by saying there's a lot of competition in the middle of the wide receiver room or whatever.
Yeah.
That could be him saying, look out, we could have OZ as number 2 and Dotson as number 3.
I don't think Dotson's going to fall. I'm going to get to that here in a moment, but I did want to talk to Uptown Dre's comment here. Does Martavius Bryant have a realistic chance to make our roster and maybe the 6th or 7th option behind Terry, Jahan, Zacchaeus, Diami, and Luke? Yes. Mainly because Martavius Bryant, 1, brings experience. 2, he's going to do something, I think, better than some of the other wide receivers that we have out there, which is blocking.
Right.
Yep.
He's a big physical wide receiver, and that is something we don't have. Right.
Yep.
You list off those guys again. You have to wait till you get to Luke McCaffrey to get north of 6'1".
Right.
Yeah.
That's
see,
right.
and that's what we've been talking about. Even we were doing our pre-drafts. We were talking about the Xavier Leggett's, the Johnny Wilsons from Florida State, the big guys that we don't necessarily have that can be a red zone threat or a deep ball contested catch kind of guy. And Bryant brings that because that's what he was for Pittsburgh.
If he makes the roster, it's because the guy is big and he blocks.
And you don't sign him in the preseason if you don't think he has a realistic shot, or at least he doesn't sign with you if he doesn't feel like he's got a realistic shot to make your roster.
And you guys, this was his second workout this offseason with us.
It was.
So
someone mentioned that one earlier here. Brian did. We worked out Brian in the spring, signed Bird, got rid of Bird. Bryant comes back. Now, I think one of the things key here is Bryant himself mentioned he dropped a bit of weight in between springtime and now. So he was trying to get leaner, trying to get faster there. Hey, Chris, we appreciate you here subbing up and keeping the grinding. Make sure if you haven't done this already, you follow Chris's lead here and sub up or like this video too. We appreciate everybody jumping in on the chat here.
And Nathan, by the way, last week when it was just Trev and I talked about going to camp, and I couldn't stop raving about Zacchaeus. He popped for me, not just in his play, which he did because he was number 1, he was punt returner 1, plus what he was doing in the wide receiver room. But I noticed, and I'm a big guy, big on this, which is, the little intangibles. He was a team guy. He was a glue guy. He was a fire everybody up. It was patting everybody on the helmet, dapping everybody, going to the coaches, all of the stuff that you need from certain guys. Of course, talent will always trump all of that. I totally get that, but he blew me away when I watched him. And he's tiny, by the way.
Yeah,
but
he's not a big guy.
He is a tiny dude, but he blew me away in that practice. And I became a big Zacchaeus backer in that practice.
Good. I'm glad that bandwagon is growing. I've preached it. I preached it here. I preached it on our the fantasy show that I was on. I preached it with District Divided. I might butcher his name every now and then.
Yeah,
it's okay.
But
That's
Oz, and me, we're
That's
like
right.
this.
Let's go with Oz.
Okay?
Whatever happened to the comment or the statement from last offseason that Jahan Dotson might be wide receiver 1?
Yeah.
Kept hearing that.
That was my big hype. I mean, again, I spent a lot of hard-earned auction money on Jahan Dotson. He had a fantastic hype, Trev. Fantastic hype last offseason. Before his sophomore year. Did not compute, right? Did not pan out. This year, you got to think this is his third offense in 3 years. Right?
Okay.
He starts off.
That's an excuse to me.
I'm not saying. Hold on. I'm going to get to where this is important. Right? Scott Turner, EB, now Cliff Kingsbury, and Cliff himself has talked about how he likes what he has from Jahan Dotson, but kind of goes into this is can read in between the lines. I might actually be able to pull up the full quote here from our group chat, but he does talk about how. Things are different for him, and he's trying to get there to gelling. Right? He hasn't quite gotten to the aspect here. All right, so Seawall Sports, asks Cliff Kingsbury about Jahan Dotson. This is what Cliff Kingsbury had to say. He has tremendous ball skills. He's played in a couple of different systems since he's gotten into the league, and I think once he gets comfortable with us, whether it's inside, outside. I think you're going to see him just really take off. He had a really great catch today, but the one thing I like about him is when you challenge him and you ask him to compete, he's going to go and he's going to compete his tail off and make the plays. And so he's been really happy with what I've seen from him. I love his competitive nature, and I think he's just going to continue to get better. I can tell him and Jayden have a good rapport, which is encouraging. Now tell me this, gentlemen, does that sound like the guy B. Mitch is calling out? Because that doesn't sound like the guy B. Mitch is calling out. If Cliff Kingsbury is saying that this is a competitor, this is a guy who's stepping up and trying to do the most, and B. Mitch is saying there's a guy out there who's complaining about not being the option, that doesn't seem like that's Jahan Dotson to me.
I think Cliff has to give that answer because he cannot say anything like that about his players if he wants to keep his job. That's what B. Mitch's job and everybody else's job is to do, is to give you the real of what these coaches are saying. He has great ball skills. He had a great catch today. And if I challenge him, he's going to compete. That is the NFL. You should ask every player to be challenged. They should compete. You know what I mean?
Which is B. Mitch's point.
So B. Mitch just gave you the real to what Cliff Kingsbury gave you in the smoke. After the smoke clears, B. Mitch came out and said, what's really going on? Because Cliff's not coming back like, oh, he's lazy. His body language is bad. Nobody is going to do that on the coaching staff. And they have to give out the most positive answer.
So Grimjob might have to help us out here for the discussion on Jahan Dotson, but saying, Nathan, listen to Santana today on the command center. I didn't get to it. Again, kid's appointment. Let me know what Santana said.
No, I didn't hear what he said, but I take what Santana says with a grain of salt. Command center is a Washington Commanders program.
Fair.
He has to toe a certain line. So I'll take that with a grain of salt. Just like Trev was saying. That's what Cliff has to say. Now, the thing is, the sort of things that they're saying, that Cliff is saying in that, is he's not talking about all of the talent and all of the great things he's doing on the field and making plays. He's talking about when you challenge him, he's competitive and he responds. That's what you say when you're not talking about his talent showing out. When you talk about Terry, listen to what they say about Terry. and it's a completely different tone. It's all about the making the plays and the the contested catches,
the leadership,
the lead, and all of that stuff, right? So it's just a different tone. It's the reading between those lines, and that they have to say something positive. So they go to stuff that really doesn't matter. They go to stuff that doesn't talk about talent. And that's what Cliff is doing. That's a perfect example of what Cliff is doing. And by the way, if I'm not mistaken, it's Terry McLaurin's third offense in 3 years. And it's his
bingo
12th quarterback in 5 years. And he's still a star. It doesn't.
There's
If
a
you're a
difference.
star,
There's a level.
You're a star. You shouldn't have to have these excuses that it's different coordinators, or you're trying to fit in, or you're trying to learn a new system or a new position or any of this. If you are a star, it doesn't matter who your quarterback is, your offensive coordinator, your head coach, the offensive system, anything. If you're a star, you're a star, and you'll do it no matter what, no matter where. And that's Terry McLaurin. And if you're not, then you start talking about him being competitive and him catching a ball today.
right. He had a great catch today.
He had a great catch today.
I saw him make a great on the Twitter account
in camp for Mariota. I saw him make a great catch on a vastly underthrown ball, and he made a great catch on that. And by the way, he was 3 yards past the corner, and if he had anybody with an arm, it would have been this beautiful touchdown pass, but he had to come back. But it was Mariota. But that was a play that could have been made, and he made that play. And maybe that's even the one he's talking about.
Could be, because that quote was from a while ago.
Yeah, he caught a ball.
I'm not down on Jahan. I'm not
either. I think that's fair to say that we're going to talk about all of this criticism of what's going on. We want to figure it out. But I think all three of us are fine in saying that Jahan Dotson is still wide receiver 2, and we still expect 60 to 75 catches from the guy this year and 5 or 6 touchdowns.
Which is going to be a jump. He's got 35 receptions, 49 receptions, and in the 500-yard range.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, the drops, he had 6 his rookie year, 5 last year.
Okay.
10% drop rate to 6% drop rate.
Yeah, and he played more games last year and had less drops.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I'd really like to go back and watch every single
because that's not the narrative people are trying to push, right? People are trying to push that, he had more drops, he's inconsistent.
Yeah,
he actually had more drops his rookie year.
Yeah, but you remember also some of the drops came at really critical times of the game.
And that's why you remember them. That's absolutely
probably why.
So I mean, he'll be all right. He just gotta, I guess, learn the offense again and see if he gels. Which is whatever.
If we're in week 4 and he's running cardio or he's wide receiver 4, then we can I think we can throw up the flag and we can start talking about how, he might be Stoner's first player. Stoner's been wrong about from start to finish. But I don't think it's time now. And I do think that there are flaws in his game. There are flaws in his game when he was drafted, but there's a special player there who I believe can be a special player for Washington, and we haven't seen it yet. Okay, but this isn't Diami waiting for Diami Brown to be the burner, right? This is a guy who has a route tree. This guy can run any route. This is a guy who's killer. I mean, you can find clips of him in burgundy and gold breaking ankles.
I remember that one spin move against the Giants on Nick McLeod. Was that his rookie year? Was that rookie year?
That was his rookie year. I remember that.
And then the game we went to on Sunday Night Football, Taylor Heineke deep ball, middle of the field. He came down with it to get us in field goal range, and then what happened after that. But anyways, so he's flashed that he can be wide receiver too. He can be that special talent. It's just something going on this year. I just want to figure it out. Why Diami's getting more praise, why Zakia's getting more, why Jahan's still playing the second quarter of the preseason game with different quarterbacks. It's just inquiring minds want to know what's going on.
I think he's playing more in preseason because of what Cliff said. Kingsbury talked about how he's got to get familiar with this offense and he's got to know where he's supposed to be and whatnot. So if it's taking him a little bit longer, Cliff wants to see him out there, and regardless of the QB, and he wants to see him running the right routes. And he wants to see the timing out there, and he wants to see. And it doesn't sound like we have a set, not just from Cliff Kingsbury, but from also DQ talked about this. We don't know who's opposite Terry McLaurin right now. They're still trying to figure out who's outside, who's inside. We're going to see a lot of 3 and 4 wide receiver sets. So Jahan Dotson's going to see time on the field, but is he going to be outside? Is he going to be inside? A lot of people want Luke McCaffrey at 6'2" to be the inside guy. Zacchaeus could be a heck of an inside threat.
Martavis Bryant could come up and be the outside guy, right?
I'm not going to get carried away with wide receiver 7, but it's going to be interesting to see where they line up everyone to be dangerous in this offense. And how many ever times Jayden Daniels just calls all go.
Love it.
Routes. So
love it. We'll see what happens.
I've been also, I may be turning a corner on Diami. I may be turning a corner on Diami. And I know you even said that almost as soon as you came on, Nathan, that this every preseason he does this. I don't think he does this. But I think every preseason, because he goes to those workouts every preseason with the quarterback. But I think you hear things from the coaches this year that are a little bit different. And so I think he has a chance to be a contributor this year. I'm not talking – I mean, he's got like 29 career catches.
Yeah,
he's not catching that many this year. But I think his career high, I think he's like 12, 5 and 12 or something like that. I think he's going to beat his career high in catches. I think he's going to get close to 20. I think it's going to be a little bit different for Diami this year.
I do too.
I personally, my expectations for him are very low. So he's maxed out at 12 catches.
Yeah, 12, 5 and 12, I think.
My goal for him is going to be very simple. And I think that this is something this coaching staff can kind of unlock. And Terry McLaurin's talked about Diami Brown is getting off the line of scrimmage, so that way he can use his speed, so he's not having a hand fight. As I would like to see his yards per reception equivalent to what it was his sophomore year, which was 22 yards per reception. But I would like to see his receptions in the 20s.
Right.
Be that deep threat. Be the guy who once or twice a game is going to just get that catch for 40 yards, 42 yards.
For sure. Yep.
Right?
He did that. Was that Tennessee? Two seasons ago where he had like 275 yarders or something like that.
And what's crazy about that? The two receivers we're talking about right now, we're catching balls from Carson Wentz.
Right.
Jahan Dotson's rookie year was Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
His career game was Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
So I guess he just needs somebody to actually trust him to make the play downfield. I don't necessarily think Taylor trusted him as much. I don't think Sam Howell even trusted him as much. Well, he couldn't get a pass off because he didn't sack every play. But I think this year, Jayden's going to be aggressive and take a shot and give Diami a shot, which he really hasn't had with these past quarterbacks outside of Carson Wentz. Not saying, whatever, but it is what it is. He just has
and I think what Diami brings with this coaching staff that's a little bit different is, number one, Diami's a special teamer, right? He plays teams. And two, he is a very, very good, not an average. He's a very good blocker. And that coaches love that, obviously. And this coaching staff, I think especially, loves that trait about wide receivers. And so I think that helps his position within this coaching staff. So we'll see where that goes. But
they like him.
I think they do like him, and I think we're going to see some higher playing time this year.
Like I said, I think this might be the staff to just kind of unleash him, to give him that free reign. He might only be running that go route, but he's going to be running that go route 5 times a game, and Jayden Daniels is going to be looking for him a couple of times, So, and I think that'd be fantastic role, because, like you said, he is a teams role player, right? He's a gunner. He's a good special teams player.
Yep.
He has the speed. I don't think he passes Jahan Dotson, who's the mainline topic here. I don't think Jahan Dotson's worried about De'Ami Brown taking his job. I think they play very differently. Like I said, De'Ami Brown's got what he's I'm not going to call him a one trick pony, but he's got one really good trick.
Yeah, it is.
He's got one really good trick. Jahan Dotson can do several different things, and you don't need him to play teams, because he's going to be out there, 65-75% of your offensive snaps in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be interesting just overall also at the wide receiver room, who sort of, would they do 6? Do they do 7? Again, Martavis Bryant, Pringle, Crowder, the guys at the end of the list. Those young guys. Look, Bryson Tremaine has had an excellent
Tremaine's
camp.
had a good camp. Yeah. A lot of people love Tremaine.
Yeah, and watch Kaz Allen do some things. Now, I don't know what he does well in route running, but just watch some of the things that Kaz Allen does on the field. And so these are some young guys. So it's going to be interesting to see sort of who sticks around, because Tremaine is this is his second year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And Kaz's second year. So those guys, Mitchell Tinsley, second year,
mm-hmm.
Are they going to stick around on this practice squad all the time?
Quiet time for, I think, Mitchell Tinsley. Really, for a guy, when you're talking about a guy who's at the end of the roster, you can't have a camp where people aren't mentioning your name constantly. Okay. Yeah. Bryson Tremaine is the guy people are mentioning this year. Last year, Tinsley. People love Tinsley. He was a healthy scratch most of the year. This year, Bryson Tremaine is the one people are talking about, and Mitchell Tinsley might be on the bubble, might be a practice squad guy. Metaphor here asking us the question, could Jahan Dotson take on the shifty Curtis Samuel role? Curtis Samuel found himself a nice niche last year, finally kind of showing what it was that he brought to an offense. Can Jahan Dotson take on that role?
Yes, but I really haven't paid attention to Cliff Kingsbury's system. I don't know if there is a Curtis Samuel role in this system. But as far as the general perception of it, smaller screen, catch and screen kind of guy, jet sweep kind of guy, short intermediate routes kind of guy, a couple occasional deep balls here and there. I could definitely see that. But like I said, just in this offense, I don't know if there is a Curtis Samuel role.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, Trev. I haven't seen that in any of the Cliff Kingsbury type offense at any of his stops. They haven't had that Curtis Samuel sort of role, a player that fits that sort of type of role. So I don't see it, but I mean, you never know. If you see talent, then you make plays. You create plays for talent, and so maybe they could do that with Jahan.
All right, we have JG here. I'm curious to see how much Jayden Daniels distributes his passes. Yeah. I think that's going to be key, not only this offense, but you're also talking about a rookie quarterback who, I mean, what are you expecting yardage-wise? Maybe like 3,500 yards? Terry's taking 1,000 of that. Then you're going to distribute the rest. So that's why I would be hesitant to put too lofty standards on Jahan Dotson's third year, because he might only have 500 yards, because he's going to be splitting with Zacchaeus. He's going to be splitting with Ertz and Sinnott, and 500 yards on 40 catches might still be wide receiver 2-3 territory for him. Yeah. But it's just because the ball gets distributed amongst a lot of other people once it's past Terry McLaurin.
For sure.
Eckler and B-Rob out of the backfield for sure. But I don't see Jayden Daniels getting to 3,500 yards. I just don't think they're going to be out there passing as much as especially as last year, but passing as much, because let's not, sort of overlook and forget all about this offensive line and the struggles of the offensive line. And now you've got injuries that you're dealing with on the offensive line. Yeah. And I just don't think that these coaches are going to go out there and put Jayden Daniels at risk. They're just not going to do that this first year when they know what limitations are on the offensive line. He threw 3 passes, right? One was a screen, one was a bubble screen, and one was supposed to be a screen that he checked out of into a deep pass. And if he had held the ball 1 second longer, the right defensive end was going to smother him. That dude was coming off of his blind side. And they're going to look at that and they're going to say, we just can't do that. We can't have him out there having all these deep drops time after time. So they're going to do bubble screens. They're going to do short screens, short passing. They're not going to have a whole lot of deep patterns too much especially as much as last year. So I don't see him even getting to 3,500 yards this year.
Tommy T points out Kyler Murray had 3,700 yards his rookie year.
Yeah. Well, what was his offensive line like in Arizona?
I'd have to go back and look, but I can't imagine it'd be much worse than what Washington has here for certain. So moving on here, Jordan putting out his wide receiver list. Okay. And we're going to do ours, but first I want to tell Jordan after I read this. Okay. If this ends up being accurate, we will do a wheel of giveaway just for Jordan here. And we'll put some stuff on the shop here because Jordan has Terry, Dotson, De'Ami Brown, Zacchaeus, McCaffrey, Bryant. Okay. If it ends up this way, Jordan, you come back here, you remind me, and I'll set up a whole shorts video with a wheel of giveaway just for you because De'Ami Brown is not above Zacchaeus and Bryant probably maybe not even on this roster. So, but I just wanted to bring this one up. And let's get here our wide receivers 1 through 7. Let's keep 7.
We're going to keep 7. Trev's muted. He's trying, but
Jamison Crowder. Somebody's got to return punts.
100% Jamison Crowder is making this roster.
Yeah. He's not getting cut. So
that's where that one sort of falls off a little bit is Crowder.
And I'm cool with that. I'm cool with Jordan's receiver list and just add Crowder as a number 7. I'm cool with that. Yeah, I know Bryce Tremaine's having a good camp, but he's just taking the spot of Mitchell Tinsley from last year. He's going to be a healthy scratch if he makes it. So, I'm not really putting stock into that. He didn't do anything in the preseason game to make you go, wow. He did it against our own players. So, no disrespect to Tremaine, but I'm not really getting involved in that hype. And then Kaz Allen, he's a practice squad guy. Tinsley might not even be on practice squad with another team. Brian Pringle's going to be cut because Crowder's a better returner. And then Bryant is going to just add size, and he's going to stay on the roster, like you said, for blocking, red zone depth, and he's a vet. So that's where I'm at with the wide receivers. Just add Crowder to that list, and that's the wide receivers we have.
It's really hard for a team to cut a guy a veteran that they signed as a free agent. It's hard for them to do it, not because of money, but because you don't sign a guy like that unless you feel like he has a chance to make your roster. And that's guys like Zacchaeus. That's Jamison Crowder. Let's not forget, he's not a holdover. They brought him back.
Yeah, they did re-sign him.
So it's him, and then it's Byron Pringle, and then it's Martavis Bryant. So those are 4 guys that somewhere 3 of them are probably going to be on this roster.
I do have a hard time believing that the back end of that is going to be true. These are some Pringle, Bryant, and Crowder are all 3 vets, and I don't see them keeping nearly half of their wide receiver room as older vets.
Right.
You would do that if you were a team who was positioned to win now, and you needed the veteran experience, in case of injury, right? But this is a roster they're looking to develop. So I don't see all three of them making it.
No, I don't either. I said 2 of the 3.
Yeah, I wouldn't even put it that far. I think one of the 3.
I think Crowder's a lock. I don't think he should be in that back end group. I think he's a lock.
I agree with you, Trev. I think he's a lock. And I think this Bryant stuff's just, we're out of control with it. He's played in one practice, right?
I know. Something? But like,
and he hasn't really had a catch in a while, right?
Nah, Dan Quinn pretty much is endorsing Martavis Bryant. He got him because of his size and his catch radius. He said he was with them last year in Dallas on the practice squad, so he got to see him up close and personal. I mean, we invited him back for a second tryout and then ended up signing him, which means we saw something we liked in the first go round, but just wasn't whatever. Then we bring him back. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if Dan Quinn is the kind of guy that'll bring somebody, his guy, quote unquote, over to his new team and then eventually cutting him.
Let him
I mean, it's a business, but like at the same time, I just don't get that vibe from Dan Quinn to do that, because at the point it's like, then why would you even waste time on that if you didn't see anything for real? You know what I mean? So I think Bryant's a sneaky.
Bryant hasn't caught a pass in the league since 2018. That's fine. Pointing that out here.
But he's played ball everywhere else. He just hasn't played in the NFL in 6 years. He played for UFL, XFL, Canadian Football League, Arena Football League, even the fan controlled football league. That was the thing. He played there. So I don't know. I don't know. I think it's a weird signing too, but I think that he has a legit chance of being a depth guy on this team.
It's just hard to sort of predict that he's going to be a roster guy when he's been in one practice, and we have no idea how he's going to be.
Yeah, I don't think Pringle makes the 53 either.
No, Pringle's not making the 53. No. I don't
count out Pringle. Don't.
I know you're a big Pringle
Ever
guy.
since we signed him, they ain't said Pringle. They ain't said potato chip. They ain't said nothing close to his name since he's gotten here.
That's
for
true.
The second time. They have.
I did see him in practice, and he was very forgettable.
Yeah, call that name Ruffles.
Yeah, call him Ruffles.
All right, Jimmy here. McLaurin, Dotson, Diami. You guys got to just stop it with the Diami stuff. Crowder, whoever is 6'4", Scrappy McCaffrey. Yeah, this roster is devoid of tall guys. Luke McCaffrey coming in at 6'2", but those first 4 that Jimmy here has listed are all on the smaller side.
How do you know when guys make the roster what number receiver they are? You know what I mean? Like, how do you know that Diami is wide receiver 3?
I think you look at the depth chart and you know the first 3. You have right. You have your outside receivers 1 and 2, and then your slot is wide receiver 3. After that, it can get a little bit questionable on who is 4. Yeah, and who's 4 and 5, and then it comes to the games, because you're going to see a 4 receiver.
Preseason.
Who's that 4th receiver coming out? If I had to take a guess, it's Terry, Jahan, Zacchaeus. I'm hesitant to put Luke this high. I think Luke is 5. I'll put Diami here at 4. As a nod to the work that he's been putting in. Then I'd put Luke. And then from there, I'm thinking maybe you have Crowder and Tremaine.
Crowder for sure. Come on, Nathan. Crowder for sure.
It's hard to put Crowder up there because he is you have other people who can necessarily fill the return for him, because it's not like he was a fantastic returner last year.
He was the only one that almost ran it back to the house for us.
And I like what he brings. I like what he brings to the wide receiver room, but I'm not convinced they need to keep him. So they might want to keep somebody else. But I would say Crowder makes it a 6 and Tremaine is 7. That's my list as of today.
As of
week 55 Eastern on the 14th of August.
I gave subject to Trev. Last year, I gave Trev just from watching practice on kind of who was getting in and getting out and who I thought were the guy. I still think it's my prediction they're only keeping 6, because I still think they need that extra guy for the kick return position. And I think it's going to be a guy like McNichols from the running back room.
Who they said that he is running back 3 now.
They need that that roster spot from somewhere, and I think they're going to take it from the wide receiver room. But this whole Bryant thing has thrown that all into a tizzy of bringing him in the first place,
a big guy,
and then signing him. It just threw me off in terms of my whole wide receiver room, because it just didn't make sense why he's there and why they even signed him.
He's going to play a lot Saturday.
Yeah, we're probably going to see a little bit more of him, especially in that back end. Timothy asking, has Luke McCaffrey tried returning? He's got some burners. Don't sleep. And Stoner, did you get the don't sleep read in?
I did not.
Well, this is a perfect time. Thank you, Timothy, rather. I appreciate you with the comment. We'll get to the Luke part here, but don't sleep on Luke McCaffrey. Indeed, and you don't have to sleep if you head over to District, or if you head over. Ooh, it's been a long day, folks. Don'tSleepEnergy.com. Use the code DISTRICT to get yourself 10% off your entire order. You're going to support us by letting them know that we sent you there, and you're going to support a local DMV company. That's Don't Sleep Energy. Get all of your energy needs or whatever you want there. They have some great, fantastic products. I love the logo that they have, and I always enjoy supporting local businesses. So make sure you get out there. Use the code DISTRICT at Don'tSleepEnergy.com. Don't Sleep Energy makes you great. And I do think Luke McCaffrey can be great. I like what I've seen from him as far as his movement. He seems pretty fluid, but I don't think that he's return special.
When I was at practice, I wrote this down, so I went to check my notes. The punt returners were these guys in this order: Crowder, Allen, Dotson, Forbes, Oz. So I did not see Luke McCaffrey back. This is punt return. They weren't doing kick returns, but just turn of punt returns. He was not back there.
So, yeah. My bad, guy. My bad, Timothy. I'm so bad.
Yeah, I almost did it again.
It has been a long day. Early in the morning, afternoon appointment. Ooh, never a thing. Yes, Allison. A lot of people, and this is one of the things when you're actually looking at Luke McCaffrey's RAS, his relative athletic score, it's very similar to what we saw from Puka Nacua. Didn't butcher that one there, Stoner. It's very similar, which is why I think a lot of people have some high hopes for him. But as Tommy mentions, McCaffrey has been playing wide receiver for only 2 years, so it might take some time for him to translate that athletic skill to the football field. Now, he will get some opportunity here tomorrow against the Miami Dolphins, and we are going to be talking about that here, and also who is going to make the next play of the game. I'm not wearing Tressway. I came in right from feeding the kid as soon as we got home from his appointment, so I did not change into my Tressway jersey in honor of that play of the game, but we are going to talk about who we think will be making the next play of the game here in the cool down. Stick with us. Welcome to episode 186, The Cool Down, here on Ref the District. Get our updated graphics here. Miami Dolphins is the game of the week here for our burgundy and gold, but more importantly, in my opinion, the joint practice session is going to be beginning tomorrow. This is something that I felt was big last week against the Jets. Is we got to see some of it. It wasn't the best coverage in the joint practice. The Jets did have a camera up, but it didn't necessarily show us what we really wanted to show, because namely it's the Jets camera. So they're more focused on their guys, but also the joint sessions aren't for us. It's for the team. Now, what we did see, gentlemen, was the Washington Commanders struggling against the Jets. And a lot of the good faith and the good vibes that we had going into that kind of deflated a few people, but I really think that was actually for the best. I feel like the managed expectations to take people from thinking Washington is a lock to win 10 games to more realistically knowing that this is a 6 or 7 win team was the great thing. And I think that will probably continue here against Miami, where we're gonna throw punches, hopefully not real punches, but we're gonna take our shots and we're gonna have opportunities. But I think in the end, Miami is a better team, and that's going to be shown throughout the joint practice. How do you feel about it?
I'm excited about it just because, again, it's a new environment. It's a new deal especially for your quarterback, right? He's been dealing with his guys for a while. Then he went on the road and went to New York and went up against a tough defense. Got to talk to an Aaron Rodgers, all of that. Now come back, do some things with your own team again, go back on the road, go to Miami, deal with a playoff team and an atmosphere and another great quarterback in Tua. And that's just all good for everybody, especially for a young team and especially for a young quarterback. The idea, are we the only team that's doing 2 separate joint practices? I think it's freaking brilliant.
Oh, it's outstanding. Do 3. Get a third in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Go to New England or have New England come down for a day before that preseason game. But I don't think there's anything bad that can come out of joint practices unless they have so many fights where you have to stop practice. Right. But it's nothing but good experience and just the ability of these guys to go up against not the same guys every day.
I'm looking forward to it because, like you said, for the basics, new competition, new atmosphere, and this and that. But I'm also ready to see how bad our defense really is. I know our linebacking group is nice. Our defensive line is stout, but the back end is all questionable. Every single player back there is questionable. And I don't know if we'll play Tyreek Hill on Saturday. I don't know if he'll play or not. But regardless, Miami Dolphins have speed from their quarterback to running back to wide receivers. So I think this game will definitely tell what our secondary really looks like. And then they're going to probably make some moves after this game to either bolster it or figure out how to bolster it. But I'm not worried about the offense. We already saw what that's capable of doing. I don't need to see Jayden Daniels out there for longer than another series like he did in the first game. We see what he can do. We can see what Eckler can do. He's been in the league for 15,000 years. We know what B-Rob can do. We know what Terry can do. We know what everybody on offense can do. Okay? I'm just ready to see what our defense is going to do because that's where we spent the most money on this year in free agency was defense. And it's a true test. It's a fast team. Like you said, we play Mike Evans and Chris Godwin week 1. That's a stout wide receiver room. So it's Miami. So I'm just ready to see how bad our corners really are. It's another true test for Forbes. I'm interested to see how they use him in this kind of game since he's been crapping the bed against number 1s and 2s ever since he got here.
You'll see just how much Joe Witt Jr. likes him if he puts him out on an island against Tyreek Hill.
Exactly. So
you'll be trying to end that young man's career if you see that happening. You'll be like, wow, Joe Witt Jr. doesn't like Emmanuel Forbes.
Yeah, I don't care if we win or lose. I just want to see if we're going to be competitive or not on the back end defense. So it's a true test.
Yeah, I do agree that the defense needs to get tested, and Forbes, as Grimjaw pointing out, is going to be tested, period. They're going to attack him. Teams, when they see 13 on the other side of the field, they're going after him. And so it'll be interesting to see how this defense kind of changes to adapt to that, whether or not it is sitting Emmanuel Forbes and only bringing him off in certain packages or how that's going to go. But I disagree with you, Trev, on the offense. I have not seen enough of this offense. I have not seen enough of Jayden Daniels. He needs to play a quarter minimum.
Does the JJ McCarthy injury scare you off?
Zero bearing.
Sam Hartman injury scares me.
Zero bearing.
Matt Stafford got tightness today.
Zero bearing.
I'm sorry, but I can't go all the way to 0. Yes, I do want to see him play because he's our franchise quarterback. But also, bro, if the freakish accident could happen, just because we want to see him go a whole quarter as fans because we're excited. But realistically, he should not play that long in the second preseason game.
So I missed the jet setter topic. So you're gonna have to enlighten me here on how you guys felt about Jayden Daniels' one series performance.
Yeah.
Against the Jets. Enlighten me just one more time here. What was your guys' take specifically on Jayden Daniels' one series performance against the Jets? Because Trev, it sounds like you were like, yep, okay, I've seen everything I ever need to see from him, and he's good. Just sit him for the rest. Who was it? It was Joey T saying don't even play him in the preseason.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you're taking Joey's spot here.
No, he should play, but no more than 2 series this game.
Probably one quarter, by the way.
Yeah, well, I don't know. We saw him run the option. That's how he scored. We saw him throw the deep ball. That's the top of the discussion. He was aggressive and checking into that play without permission, so to speak. And he had a nice zip on the ball to Terry on the screen. I don't need to see him hand off the ball anymore. Do I really want to see him scramble from pressure? Yes, but I've already seen that he can do that. I don't need to see it right now in a preseason game. He's our number 2 draft pick of this draft. He's a franchise quarterback. We finally have the guy. I don't want to risk him out there longer than needed. I really don't. It's Jayden Daniels. It's not like it's Marcus Mariota or we just drafted Trace McSorley. It's the Heisman Trophy winner. We have enough of him on tape for ourselves. I just don't. Freak accidents happen, man, and I'm not about to let that happen to us with Jayden Daniels because we as fans want to see him play a quarter. If the coaches see enough in 2 series,
I think his coaches want him to, but
I don't know if they really do or not. I thought he would have played longer in the first game than 1 series, to be honest. I really thought so, but he didn't. I don't know. It's just so weird how the 3 preseason thing, do they not dress out in the third game at all? Do they play the most in the second one? It's just hard to decipher. So if you have to go a quarter, go a quarter. But if you do play a quarter, keep him off the field as much as you can. 4 or 5 plays on the field, score, let him sit, let the defense come. Keep him off the field as much as you can.
Yeah.
In that first quarter.
I'll be perfectly honest, Nathan. I've done a 180 on Jayden Daniels in the preseason. I'm the guy that thinks he should play 4 quarters every game because he needs the experience. But I've seen enough. I've seen enough.
Thank you.
I know it's weird. It's weird because I'm not normally
the same
like
game.
Yeah, what else can he
do? Enough. Not just in that game, though, Nathan. I've seen it day in and day out. This is not your typical rookie quarterback. This is not from years past. This is not Sam Darnold. This is not Zach Wilson. This is not Trey Lance. This is a guy who played 5 years of big-time college football. This is a guy who played in the SEC. He's a guy who, as Trev said, who won the Heisman Trophy, and whatever you want to say about that, he was still considered the best player in college football in the best league of college football. He's not some guy who you're kind of wondering about anymore. You've seen it from day one. This has not been sort of, okay, he's getting better and we need to see a little bit more progress. He's been on point since day one. And so I don't need to see any more from him. He's it. He's there. He's ready.
He is, bro.
You do need him to go out there and go through the motions and do a series. I'm not saying sit him.
2 minimum.
I'm saying do a series. I don't care if they go 3 and out. Go through the motions, do your first series, and put them in bubble wrap and put them on the side.
I don't need to see anything else. I agree with you.
don't. I've seen enough, Nathan. I've seen enough. That first drive.
2 of 3, and you guys are done.
It's not the
Yes.
stats, Nathan. It's not the stats.
You've seen him throw 3 NFL passes.
I've seen him command an offense
The
for
drive
11
was
play
great.
drive.
It was one drive. Stoner, tell me your thoughts on this here. You're watching a game.
Yep.
Team receives the opening kickoff.
Right.
They have a nice long drive, opening drive, scores a touchdown. What are your thoughts on how the rest of that game goes?
What you got to give me a little bit more context. You're talking about Washington.
This is
Jayden Daniels?
You pushed it over and over again last season. You take the opening drive down and you score a touchdown on a nice long drive. What is your theory on how the rest of the game goes?
Yeah, usually the offense struggles the entire rest of the game.
They do.
Right.
Jayden Daniels had an opening NFL drive.
Preseason.
One drive, and that's why you need to see more of him. You need to see more of this when it doesn't matter.
No, because that's when freak accidents happen.
For me, Nathan,
I'm not scared of injuries.
For me, he has nothing left to show me. He has nothing left to prove to me that he's ready to play. That doesn't mean he's not going to struggle. That doesn't mean he's not going to have bad games or he's going to turn the ball over 3 times in a game. That's going to happen.
Yeah.
And they're not going to go off and win. I'm not saying he's going to go off and be rookie of the year and win 11 games and playoffs. And all. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that I've seen enough to know that he's ready for NFL football. And he doesn't need to go out there and play a whole bunch of reps.
He needs
he's not
bad drives. And
it
they
won't
need to be
bad.
Successful drives.
But it's not even the real, and it's not even the considered a real drive because half of his offensive line that starts was not playing. He's going up against last week. He went up against
2s and 3s. Yeah, there got some guys wanted to be on the end of the roster. Yeah,
but it's not about that.
No, it's not. It's just does he know the offense? Which he clearly does. He made a call himself.
It's like I told Trev.
He threw an intermediate and they handed off. What else you wanted to do?
It's like I told Trev earlier. If Diami had not caught that ball, I still would have taken him out after that drive.
Yes. Because
I've seen what I needed to see.
That's it, bro. It's not Sam Halligan. We don't need to see if it translates to the game. It's Jayden Daniels.
You've seen it every day in practice.
Every day. You see it in 5 years
every day in practice.
You saw it last week. I'm good.
I really can't believe what I'm hearing.
It's the Ferrari. Nathan, we have a Bentley Ferrari.
We have a young player who shows a lot of promise, who is learning the NFL speed, who might have the opportunity this second preseason game to play against the Miami Dolphins first team defense, or at least most of it. I would love to see him put together 2 solid drives.
Okay, so what happens?
Okay, hold on, Trev. I want to emphasize this. I want to see him put together 2 solid drives. That means if he has 1 solid drive, a 3-and-out drive, he's coming back out. Okay, he's going to go back out there. If he has if he goes 3-and-out again, okay, you're playing 1 more drive. I want to see you, unless things go really south, to put together 2 solid drives. If he puts together 2 solid drives, because we did a joint practice, I can see limiting him because of that. Okay. You saw what you needed to in practice. He did the plays you called in practice, but I want to see game time decision. I want to see if he wants to go Maverick again. As Coach DQ talked about the fly by the tower. Okay. I want to see if he goes Maverick again and if it works out, or if he gets snake bit from that. I want to see him work the pocket. I want to see him work with an offensive line that isn't going to get much more improved with the pieces that are missing. Okay. He needs to do that now, because come week 1, learning on the go is going to be detrimental.
Is it? We don't know if it is or not. It's Jayden Daniels.
Please do not use this argument when you just told me you've seen everything you need to see from Jayden Daniels.
I just, because it's like Stoner said, it's not a Sam Darnold, it's not a Josh Dobbs, it's not somebody was a high pick and is still trying to make it as a starting quarterback. It's Jayden Daniels. If we had Caleb Williams, I'd say the same thing. If we had J.J. McCarthy, I'd say the same thing. If we had Drake May before I knew he was that bad, I'd say the same thing. But, like, I've seen enough. It's preseason. 2 series, I'm cool. I don't want to see a whole quarter, personally.
Yeah, well, I'll couch my statement a little bit and say that.
Come on.
No, I'm saying that if they play him for an entire first half, I won't have any problem with that. It's not one of those
First
things
half?
it's not one of those things where I'm
typical for your dress rehearsal.
Right.
Yeah, but it's also...
I'm not going to have a problem with it. I'm not going to be going off and saying, get him out of there. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that for me, as a fan, and if I were the coach, I've seen what I need to see already.
Me too.
So I don't need to see any more.
No.
I've seen it in practice. I've seen it in joint practice. I've seen it in a preseason game. I'm convinced. I don't have to put him out there anymore to convince myself.
Right, exactly.
So, but I'm okay if he does. I'm okay if he goes out there and plays an entire half and gets more experience. I don't need to see it. I'm convinced, even though I was already in the Jayden Daniels camp.
Yeah, you're a big Jayden Daniels guy.
But I've seen enough on tape already that I understand where he is as a quarterback, and I don't need him to go out there and prove to me as a fan anymore because I've seen it all.
I guarantee you, Jayden Daniels is not worried about proving himself to ref the district.
He ought to be.
He might.
You are the preeminent show out there.
He might.
No, I think this is an important joint session for the team. Miami, better team than the Jets. Okay, Miami is a legit team. Jets are a paper team. Okay, right?
But okay.
The Jets could be very good because they're good on paper, but they're not good in actuality. Miami was good last year. And I think that's going to be a good test for them and the joint practices, getting those reps against guys, like you said, they haven't seen. And then when it comes to this game, I need to see 2 good reps from the offense. Okay.
There you go. That's fine.
I need to see it. 2 good reps, two good drives. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah. So if they go 3 and out, you can expect another drive happening because it's got to be 2 good drives. So my lead in from the game here for one last thing to talk about was Tressway made the play of the game, I would say. And that's mainly because I'm a big Tressway guy. He made a special teams tackle. It wasn't actually anything fantastic. Diami's catch probably was bigger in the grand scheme of things, but I'm a big Tressway guy. Open field tackle by the punter. You got to love it. Gets everybody hyped. Who makes the play of the game here against the Miami Dolphins?
How about I'm going to go with hang on. I'm going to go with Tyler Owens. Play of the game.
Wow.
Good one. He's been everywhere.
He's making the squad, by the way.
Sanistrell from Tommy T. TJ going to go with Forbes. Trey with Sennett. There. Hey, that was another good one. Him trucking over people and dragging bodies was exactly what we needed in our lives. That was exactly what we needed in our lives. Trav, you got one? Because if you don't, I'm also going to go defense.
I'm going to go Michael Wiley. Running back who scored for us last time. I think he's going to have a longer NFL run and score a touchdown. I don't know. It's preseason.
It is preseason. I'm going to go with Quan Martin though. I think he is going to flash again, and we're going to see something. And I'm excited about Quan Martin. But we all know this because I've been preaching it all off season. He's one of the most exciting players, not named Sanistrell, on this defense.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's going to be pretty good there. Tremaine going to be out there. Wiley, Trey Huff says, Mikey as well. I think there's going to be there. Allison going Defoe, who has been coming on a little bit stronger. So we'll see where he ends up on the roster. Trev, you look like you're going to say something.
Yeah, before you got on, we were going to touch on Jamin Davis a little bit. I just want to get your opinion. The coaches are giving a lot of vague answers about him. I've noticed his speed, his athleticism. That's about all they've said. Do you see Jamin Davis being on this 53 at the end of this preseason? And if you do, where? Defensive end or third string linebacker? Where?
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting thing. And if you're watching the comments on this live stream, because we do stream live every Wednesday here, 7:30 Eastern on YouTube and Facebook, and the live comments when we were talking about Jahan Dotson and body language with what B. Mitch said, a lot of people were actually pointing to maybe it's Jamin Davis who isn't happy and showing body language in a way that might be perceived as negative. So the fans, though, by and large, have been down on Jamin Davis from day one. And even this own trio here hasn't been exactly high on Jamin Davis. I did think prior to the reports that it wasn't really working out at edge, I was excited to see what this defense was going to bring out of him and see if they could use that athletic ability. But JOK was just given a 3-year extension, and Jamin Davis is not going to get that extension here, burgundy and gold, unless he has double-digit sacks, right? There's just no way he is going to get that. I do think he makes the 53. I will say it's going to be probably harder for him than it should be because he is linebacker 3, and he's like defensive end 5,
7,
right? And maybe even 7, Stoner. You're probably right there. But with that, he's also special teams 10. Like he not a special teamer. Right. And I think that's where when they're evaluating this roster and who makes the 53 is you have a guy who is lesser than your starters, but also not good enough to play on special teams.
What does that say?
It's kind of like where do you put him, because he might not see the field for 50 65% of the snaps, and then you don't use him on special teams. That is not a great spot. Realistically, the only reason why he makes the roster with that kind of playing time is because he was a high draft pick. I know it wasn't of this current one, but because that high draft pick, he does have athletic ability, and we've seen him play linebacker at an above average skill level. Maybe not Pro Bowl skill level, but above average skill level. So
it's interesting.
I think Tyler Owens takes the spot away from him. He's going to be, because Tyler Owens is probably safety 5, maybe he's safety 4. If you've got Chin,
Martin,
Forrest, Quan Martin, Percy Butler, Jeremy Reeves, right? If you got those guys, Tyler Owens got to find a place, and you're not booting out Jeremy Reeves because, again, special teams, right? Because he's a special team base. And maybe you boot out Butler, so he's number 5 at best. And because he plays special teams and Jamin Davis does not, then that could be where he gets his spot from, is taking Jamin Davis's spot. Because you're right. Those guys on the edges of the roster, those are the guys that need to play special teams in order to make the roster.
Absolutely. Tommy T here with the fact drop here. Do you know for the 3 years, JOK and Jamin Davis are tied with 166 tackles?
I mean, but they're so totally different.
It's why tackles is a god-awful stat. Don't box score status. That's an awful decision. Yeah, no, they're very different players. And Jamin Davis, again, I thought rookie year was rough. Sophomore year, he was improving. Third year, he was improving. This year, they were looking to unlock something from him that he may not have, and they didn't decline the 5th-year option. I think that he's in a rough spot for this roster, but I do think that he makes the 53, Trev.
Okay.
JOK has 30 tackles for losses compared to Jamin Davis's 20. And sacks, Jamin Davis has 7 and JOK has only 5 in the 3-year careers. But that's where he was making a difference last year. JOK was all those tackles for losses. He was just showing up and making plays, making big. I mean, Jamin Davis made one play last year, right?
Which
the
one
Russell Wilson turnover in that game that turned that game around. That was a big play. Yeah. That was really the biggest play he made all year. And
I'll say this: the contract is also a part of another factor here. Yeah. JOK plays for the Browns, who have a top 5 defense.
Right.
With those 166 tackles and similar stats to Jamin Davis, he's playing on a defense that those actually matter, whereas Jamin Davis is playing on a defense that's been bottom 5 2 years in a row. So that's, again, where those box score stats do not.
Still an interesting stat.
It is a very, very interesting stat, Tommy T. I do appreciate you with that one there. And I appreciate everybody who is able to jump in here. I've seen a lot of new faces. Or a lot of new names. So I hope that you continue to come here. As I did mention, we stream live every Wednesday here, 7:30 Eastern on YouTube and Facebook. We will, for the regular season, be streaming live during the game, giving you play-by-play and reactions. And we're going to be bringing you a lot of content throughout the week as it comes, the day after Reckoning, and all that good stuff as well. I'm Nathan Perry. I was the late one today. That's Trev and that's Stoner. Ref the District. We're brought to you by the Believe Network, Bet Online, and Don't Sleep Energy. And until next time.
Is Jahan a Jag?
Be a fan.